Welcome back, everyone, to the Founder Spotlight. Today, I have the founders of Hippie Water, Taylor Sewell and Sasha Pieterse. Welcome to welcome to the show, guys. How are you doing today?
Doing
Great.
so great. So happy
Thank
to
you
be
so
here.
much for having us.
Absolutely. So, Sasha, let's start with you. You've obviously had a very successful acting career, and you continue to act. How do you balance being the CEO of Hippie Water as well as your acting career?
Well, to be transparent, it's a lot, and it should be. It should be. I love Hippie Water. Obviously, I'm a co-founder, not just the CEO. This is, a product born for selfish needs, high on your own supply, if you will. And I'm all in. But with that comes obviously a time constraint. My calendar is always fully booked, which I'm thrilled about. And honestly, it's really just about making sure that I have support in every area that I can. The rest of our team is incredible with that, helping me out there. On the other side, as like a podcast host and full-time mom and actress. I am juggling, but I think I thrive on that. I hate not having anything to do, so I would not trade it. And as a professional procrastinator, I have learned a lot of lessons in the past 2 years. And I think what's great about that is that, I always want to evolve. I always want to get better. And stepping into the role of CEO where I had never been before, it felt like a role. It actually felt like I was acting at first because I was learning on the spot. And that's something that I really enjoy. So as time has gone on and I have found my feet, it's been a wonderful experience. There's certain parts about this industry that are just like nothing else, constantly learning about the cannabis space on the business side and figuring out how we can do better, how we can grow the industry. And I think ultimately with my reach as an actress, it's bringing a different experience to the space, maybe some spotlight that it wouldn't have had beforehand. And I hate talking about myself that way, but at the same time, I think it's really useful as far as Hippie Water goes, but also for the industry. I think we can all agree that the goal is to educate and reduce the stigma and really invite people into a wonderful product that can really help them. So it's been really exciting. And I know, sorry, that was a long answer for what you initially asked, but I guess I'm very passionate about it. And as far as becoming a CEO and trying to balance everything, it's really, I think it's passion. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't be doing it.
So you said a lot there. I kind of had a few follow-up there questions there. So one, how are you prioritizing film projects that you do take on in conjunction with your responsibilities at Hippie Water? And then you also mentioned obviously your platform. So how has your industry network, so to speak, helped in building the Hippie Water brand?
Yeah, absolutely. Help as well. I think ultimately acting is such a passion of mine. Like my favorite thing is being on set and actually working. But of course that comes with challenges. And so Hudson as my husband, as well as the CMO, like it's again, it's about support, and about kind of doing everything at the same time. So in between takes, answering emails, early in the morning, late at night, making sure that Hippie Water isn't being sacrificed. And it's really important to me to make sure that that's not the case. I think stepping into this community, being a CEO, it's like, what are the most important things? And we're very excited that we have two hires. It means a lot to us that we now have employees and they're excellent at juggling themselves. And so it's very much like a what can I do to the best of my ability and how can we work together to make sure that every base is covered and it's not sacrificed. And that's a hard thing. It just is. But, it just takes some dedication and making sure that the people around you are good at communication and can make sure that we're all aligning and essentially are my voice when I'm not physically present. And it's a challenge, like I said, but it's one that I enjoy. It's basically it's a juggling act in the best way possible.
Yeah. So shifting gears here over to Taylor as the beverage queen, so to speak. You obviously have a background in food science and you came and formulated Hippie Water. But what initially drew you to cannabis beverages, your previous roles?
Good question. And I will probably ramble on forever to answer this to its full extent. But to narrow in on this, I'll just start by saying making beverages is my muse. As a food scientist, you're faced with a lot of possibilities of what you can create, and that's an incredible thing. But beverages, I see people truly trying to explore and get emotional behind it, get excited about it, get curious about it, more than any other platform that I've developed for. So overall, just beverage alone is my favorite thing. Now, why cannabis is kind of multifaceted here a little bit, right? It's a new frontier, and I know that there's people in the cannabis space are probably rolling their eyes at that statement. But we are and need to realize that this is a new form factor for a lot of people. And because of that, it is very new. And I want to be a part of the world that helps make that louder, who makes it more available to you. I am a cannabis user. I have been for a little while now. I found it to be very beneficial for me and my life. I might have had some before this podcast because I know that was a little bit more loosey goosey and ready to chat. But I'm, like Sasha said, we're passionate about this idea. This was intended to fill in a gap that we had in our lives because alcohol just wasn't quite doing the things that we wanted. And now we're doing it. So I know that I kind of did a whole ramble, but there's so many reasons why being a part of it was a decision. I know it's not an easy one, but if it works out, my dreams come true.
This is kind of for both of you. Both of your husbands are in the business, correct? So, do you guys go on like some double dates and say, "Oh, let's like start a cannabis company together," or how did you guys initially come together and want to start a business together?
Yeah, I mean, so Taylor, Alex, Hudson, and I have known each other for over 10 years. I actually married Taylor and Alex,
Good.
and they spent their honeymoon at our wedding. And so, the friendship has grown and evolved in such a great way. And I feel like Alex is he's such an idea guy. Like he's always, thinking about cool business names and like, how do we build a business around that? And he had a couple of concepts that were just funny. I think we had like a game night. This was when we were living in Tennessee and they were still in LA.
FaceTime dates.
Yeah, it was kind of like, that Hippie Water. That's a great name. How can we make something of that? And, I was going through my journey of, I have a lot of health issues. I have PCOS, I have epilepsy, and I love to entertain. I love to, welcome people into our home when I'm going to events and that sort of thing. Alcohol is it's just a part of it. It's something that is just, whether you like it or not, is just something that exists and it's normalized in our space. But it was not gelling with my life anymore. Having a baby, getting up early for work, it's just, as you get older, those hangovers last longer. And it just was not something that was serving me anymore. And I was looking for something different. I was never a cannabis user. It's not that I looked down on it. It was just it wasn't around when I was growing up. My friends didn't really smoke or anything like that. And so
Her
it never
friends
crossed my mind.
to herself.
There were users there. It never crossed my mind as an alternative for me until Taylor suggested it. And I didn't even know that you could drink cannabis. And I think one of the most intimidating parts of the industry is not everybody wants to go into a dispensary. Not everybody wants to take a gummy that, may or may not work for them in a couple hours. And there's an intimidating nature if you're not used to it. And that was me. And Taylor, somebody that I trust, experiencing it in a different way was really appealing to me. And so, I had a second thought. I was like, is this a road that I even want to go down? But as soon as I did, there were two things that happened. One thing was I really did enjoy it. The second was I hated every beverage on the market. And to me, I know that's really a strong statement. There are some really incredible cannabis beverages out there. So that's an extreme statement. But I realized if this is something that is going to actually be my alternative, I don't think I can drink what's out there. I like the idea of it, but it it wasn't something that was an substitute that I was happy with completely. I wasn't all in on it. And Taylor, being the beverage queen, kind of stopped and was like, why don't we make this? We should make our own. We should make something that we want to consume that suits our lifestyle. And this is something realistically that we can do. And Taylor, I want you to obviously talk about this as well. But I think all four of us kind of looked at each other and we're like, we kind of have the perfect components here to actually start a business like this. Alex has been in scaling and startups for over 10 years. Obviously, Taylor has incredible experience in the industry that she can obviously talk about. And Hudson has been in a marketing background for over 10 years behind the camera in the film industry and in the social media space. And it just worked. I obviously I've been really lucky to have been in the entertainment industry for a long time and gathered those fans that are just unbelievable. And what we realized was this is completely authentic. Not only is this an authentic product for me because I want to use it, it will help me, but also the demographic is there because I've really reached out and built the relationship with my fans because they're experiencing the same thing. A lot of my fans are women who are also not drinking alcohol anymore, but need something different because of their health issues, because of the fact that I've been really open with my health journey. I've been able to connect with fans that are having the same experience, whether it's PCOS or just in general, wanting something different that won't make them feel terrible in the morning, that allows them to be a better mom, allows them to be a better, go-getter in whatever capacity that means. So this wasn't it's obviously a new space, but it wasn't something that was a surprise as far as like the concept. I think what you see a lot is like a celebrity founded company, in quotations here, that is either white labeled or it's something that doesn't make sense or it's something that they don't really care about. And that wasn't the case for me. But that was, again, going through a different portion of the story. So Taylor, I want you to say your piece and how you felt about starting this company too.
Well, you filled in all the big gaps of how we got.
I'm sorry.
No, it was great because I think that's a part that is unclear to most people is how long we've known each other and how much this was built on a surprising amount of trust. Like Sasha said, she hadn't tried cannabis yet. And we just met and said, we want something. We want something here that fits us and is that touch of class. There are many options out there. We are first to admit we're not the first cannabis beverage available. However, I'm here to argue that we are the best tasting beverage. And that's because there's so many facets that are really being considered here in the production of it. Like I said, I come from making beverages, and I know Sasha's overall requirements for something that she would want to back. Because this is a new venture, even choosing CPG and then going, Taylor, I'm going to trust you enough to make a drink with a vice in it and hope it works. And we just went, okay, like, here's the lead.
I was not concerned about the quality of the product. I knew not only from your cooking and what you do just on a daily basis, but just your background and how passionate you are. I had no concern that we would be making a good product. I just knew that was going to be the case.
So essentially, she was the calm to my storm in creating these items at the end of the day. I don't even remember the initial question because we've been going on a little ramble and I'm having
how do we meet? I think it was our know each other. And we didn't even cover that. We met through neighbors, and Taylor and Alex were just so sweet and so friendly. And we desperately needed a dog sitter. And they were like, I mean, we could do it. And we were like, no, this is great. You're great dog sitters, but no, we want to be friends. And that was kind of how that started. And obviously it's grown into a beautiful friendship.
We were such babies, and Sasha has always, bear in mind, I don't know anything about pop culture, and Sasha has always been like, come in here, let me give you a big hug, let me say all the sweet nothings to you. And as someone who has been very unsure of herself until most recently, that was the biggest point of what brought us here today and how this really came to be on top of all the other little snippets.
It's hard to believe that was 10 years ago too. I just turned 29. So yeah, I was around 19. I was fresh, very fresh.
So you mentioned that Alex came up with the name Hippie Water. So why Hippie Water? And, what does that represent about you guys' brand values?
All right. I'm trying to figure out where the story begins with this one because it actually started with a completely different idea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say that name because I still believe that could be an amazing product. So there's a first idea out there and it evolved. Don't say the name.
Hold on to that idea. Keep that to ourselves. But initially it was dirty hippie water was one of the things we were considering. Dirty water. I hope I didn't say
dirty hippie. Yeah, it's cute.
But the initiative, it all began with this sense of an initiative of how can we do better for the world in a product we create. That's truly the baseline of it, of what is the sense of giving back and what does that look like to us. So the very start was considering how we can help other watering systems that are
Mm-hmm.
currently in the world. And I know that kind of sounds weird to say in that format, but I used to do a lot of philanthropy work with different communities. And one thing I learned over time is a lot of people will say, oh, we went to X country and we built a well and it was a beautiful thing. And that's a beautiful story and it sounds incredible, but there seems to be some discrepancies in that no one is coming back to maintain those wells.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, that safe water might no longer be safe and has different issues. So we thought of, okay, maybe we can do something around water, dirty water, and we will do the initiatives of the maintenance on wells that already exist. And so that was the start. But then we said, I don't know if just creating water is really what the passion is for us. We still want to have initiatives and are still really locking in on how we want to give back. But that's sort of where the sense of hippie came from, is
Mm-hmm.
taking the side of hippie of leaving the earth better than it was before, of what can we do to kind of fill in those attributes. And that can be through the planet, that can be through self-love, that can be other humans. There's so many facets there. So like bear in mind we're still determining how we truly want to fit that space, but overall it's how can we really lean into the hippie thing beyond the love. And we go, well, what's more hippie than cannabis? What's more hippie than also loving yourself while loving the planet? And that's kind of how Hippie Water really came to be and has become the beverages that you've now tried.
That was
Yes.
very well said. I don't really know if there's anything to add to that. I mean, I that is our initiative. You know, that's very much part of where it started. And I think, you know, we also wanted to create a beverage that would stand out, as far as there is a really fun cannabis vibe when it's like, you know, the neon leaf. And there's something so nostalgic about that. And this is not a knock to that. But I think when we started really thinking about what we wanted Hippie Water to also look like and stand for, we wanted the consumer to feel what we call them canna curious. We wanted them to feel familiar with the product. And so, you know, our chill factor, our hippie couture is part of that, where instead of drinking, you know, an alcoholic seltzer, trade it for this. You know, you don't have to go outside and smoke in the corner. You don't have to, you know, feel like you're out of place. This is something that feels very familiar and feels very, very cool and chill, if you will. And it's something that fits into your normal entertaining, normal social experience. And that was a huge part of us too. We want these initiatives. We want this to feel familiar. We want this to feel like a comfort. And obviously we
Cocaine
want it to
and
taste amazing
luxury.
too. Yes.
Comfort and luxury together is,
Yes. And
yeah.
clean, you know, just like we want to help the planet, we also want our product to be clean. And I think that's a big nod to Taylor, because that was a stipulation for me, but that doesn't mean that it's easy to create. And so a clean product is also something that is so important to us, and safety. And Taylor brings both of those things seamlessly. I mean, that's just a part of, you know, her nature. And Taylor, I want you to speak on this a little bit too. Sorry to kind of hijack this, Lars, but one of the big things for Taylor is, you know, this is a product that she could make her own. She's made stuff for so many other people, so many other corporations, but this is something that was finally her own. So Taylor, you say this part beautifully, and I want you to have that space.
So Lars, I'm gonna just throw myself in here then on that one a little bit. But just to give some context, because I don't know if all the listeners know who I am. So just to give a little bit of a snippet is I have been very fortunate to have developed for some really large brands. And that's an amazing, amazing thing. I'm so honored to have that within my kind of existence on the planet, because I am fortunate enough to say I fed you. You probably just didn't know it was me. And that's so personal. Getting to feed someone is really personal because that's what, you know, your family does, your friends do. And I know it's a little bit different going to the grocery store or wherever else, but someone had to make that food happen in order for it to land on your table and get in your mouth. So true though. In doing that and being being that person to make that a reality, I have also had to do it through the lens of others. Feeding the masses means that we're going after so many different demographics. And I feel honored to say that I've been able to touch so many different demographics, but I've never had it through the lens of exactly what I want. It's always consideration of others. That's the whole point, right? If a brand hires me and says, I want you to make something that just screams us, I'm on it. I got it. That headspace, it's gonna happen. I'll pump out 100. But this was the very first experience of mine starting Hippie Water of listening to what I wanted, what I want to see in the world, what I expect, what my standards are, what I think would be good to reach for something that I'd say, you know what, Sasha, this is so good. I think you should try it. And that's intimidating to do, to bring that to life. But at the same time, it's the most liberating thing I've ever done because we're getting, I mean, even Lars, you said great feedback. You've tried so many different brands, and yet ours stands out to you. And I think that's just really a really fun space to be in. So,
And thank you for that, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so
so much.
I just like you're truly having something, and anyone who tries the product, you're having something from the heart. It's the most from the heart that I've ever done. You don't have to love it, but I'd love for you to try it. Is kind of where I'm at.
Yes. So there's a few different things, directions I want to take the conversation from both of those answers. So first is who is the target audience for this product? And then second, I want to get into all the different trials and tribulations making the product. So let's start with target audience and then we'll get into the different trials and tribulations.
I'll probably take the persona because Taylor can better answer to the second question. We initially thought, okay, well, Gen Z is drinking less. They are not going and partying like we did. They're doing their own version of it, and that's great. That is great to see. So we were like, okay, yeah, we'll be replacing like a hot girl summer sort of a thing. And that ended up not being the case. You know, that community likes us, but what we found was we are really helping a different demographic, and that's really ours. It's you know that older millennial, hate to call us that, but you know the one that like wants to get home and just relax, wants to not feel like, can I swear? One that doesn't want to feel like shit in the morning, and you know wants to be able to function but also enjoy their time. And we realized that it's mainly women. It's mainly women that are either struggling and caring for everybody else around them and not necessarily making time for themselves. The ones that want to be able to go out and socialize without having to compromise on everything else. And I think that's a beautiful thing, and I actually really appreciate that, and it connects with me more in so many other ways. And again, with that, like that voice for my current audience, like this is something that I can be so proud of because I use it and I know that it could help them, and that's super exciting. And as much as Gen Z is an awesome new generation that this can, you know, very much serve them, it's nice to know that, oh, we are actually targeting the people that need it in so many ways, not just want it, they need it. And what we've also found is that because of that, they are wanting to share it with people. So somebody like me who's a mom and an entrepreneur and is like juggling so many different things, you know, I'm going home and popping a Hippie Water and being able to, you know, have a really great time, but then also have a great sleep and feel refreshed the next day, which is not something that was happening before. I've also started sharing it with my parents who have never touched anything like this. And we're seeing that in our consumers where all of a sudden, you know, this daughter who is getting like enjoying this is like, you know what, my mom would love this. And all of a sudden you have, you know, a 30-year-old, 35-year-old woman sharing it with her 60-year-old mom and really connecting in a way that they've never connected before. And that is something that I am so proud of. And also, Lars, there's definitely a big demographic of men out there too. Don't want to leave them out, but that has been really special for me. Not only are we excited about that, but we're also learning like just how authentic that voice is, that we can share it in that way. And I'm a big advocate for self-care and making sure that you choose yourself so that you can help choose other people around you afterwards. And really like dig deep and make sure that you are loving yourself and what that means. And honestly, Hippie Water is a big part of that for myself. And so that is something that is super easy for me to talk about because it really is a part of me, comes very naturally. So we're very excited about our personas. We are a baby company. We've only been, I think it's like 6.5 months post launch. And we were like, okay, we're going to go for Gen Z. And thankfully, we were able to pivot fairly quickly and get a lot of information on who our consumers are, and it's really just been an exciting shift. And I'm excited to see where that goes. And obviously, we want to grow in different directions in the future and evolve. But this was a really great start because of that.
It's interesting that your main target demographic is the millennial woman, and some of the other brands that I think are doing really good jobs of building actual brands and community happen to also be women-led brands. Soberish and Happy, for example, their core audiences happen to be women, and I happen to, even though I'm not a woman, I happen to be very drawn to all three of those brands,
Yep.
in addition to a few others. But it's interesting now that I'm having this conversation as well that those tend to be the brands that resonate because I think they're actually building brands.
I just want to add something really quick. What is really cool about work in our industry is that I know I said that I hated all the brands that were around. Well, that was about almost 2 years ago. And what we've seen is this high shelf, if you will. All of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, brands who really care about the industry and who their consumer is are rising. And I think the standard is rising. And I love that. I don't want to be the only one that's top on the shelf. I want to be able to have an industry where it feels like the alcohol space where you can go, I want the seltzer, or I want the mixer, or I want, whatever that is. I want you to have options that you feel excited about and safe
Yeah.
with, and that it's familiar. We want that culture. We want the consumer to not even question safety, know that whatever they're getting is a decent product. So I want to make that clear too, that it's not just about us. It's about really building a strong community that works for your consumer. Sorry, Taylor, now you can go.
Absolutely. So
That was
yes,
great. Can you remind me of the second question? I
yeah,
just get
absolutely.
really enthralled by what we're talking on.
So you went through a lot of trial and tribulation when you were coming up with the Hippie Water formulation. I believe you looked at 160 some SKUs when you were developing Hippie Water. When you were there you go,
Yeah.
161. What were the key factors in the final formulation?
Well, I'd love to start by addressing the fact that you say trials and tribulations, because I can't tell you how far from the truth that is in a way. Whenever developing a product, I like to become obsessive. It's nice to have a craft and be able to obsess over it in such a way to understand how to approach the situations. Looking at the 150 plus, I mean, I think it's 161. I don't remember the number exactly at this point, but it was a full market research. I am in a position of following the same protocols I've always done is what's out there, what's the gap, what are the pain points, and how do you make it better? So luckily, I don't consider that to be a challenge. I do consider it to be a challenge in the best way of that's just a part of the process that I think is so lovely. And it was really tackling that on of, Sasha and I were able to sit together early on and try a handful that mostly all sucked and said, okay, I need to get a better scope here. Is this the standard? Are these the flavors? What's going on there? Because if we're going to actually do the effort and the challenge of creating our own beverage, I want to understand the layout. What are we up against? What are we hoping to create here? So that was just an early on of that's kind of the expectation of any product that we would do. And I'm really glad it kind of shows the standard that we set of you can have a great idea, but do you know it's great if you look at all the other ideas that are out there? So that's kind of the start. But then the funny part is actually coming up with the flavors that we did. The funny story about that is I was in a hotel room for some other work travel. I don't remember exactly what it was, but Sasha and I were talking and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to write this down. I want to write these flavors down. And the only piece of paper available to me was a wax toilet seat cover. I don't know why. I don't know why that was the only thing. I don't know why that was in a hotel room, but nonetheless, all the hippie water, well, early hippie water ideas were written on that piece of wax paper, and I have it
We should
stored
frame
somewhere.
it.
We should. I need to, it must be in one of my 5,000 notebooks. I need to find it. But the initial start was, what can we bring to the table? And at the initial start that Sasha and I were at, it was the thought of, what do we want to do here? Not just, I like pineapple, so let's make pineapple. What do we really want? And that's was actually analyzing the experience that we were hoping to create. And Sasha loves to host. She mentioned that, and she's really good at it. And I love to feed people. It's just, it's a perfect blend. Her and I run Thanksgiving like no other because because of that whole environment that we just want to bring. But how do we bring that into a product? And so the first lens was, well, what are we really missing? When we say that we would go for alcohol and then we go to this, what are we missing out on? And my best translation of that was, know that I'm going to get something wonderful if I'm at a nice bar and they're mixing juices and all the colors and they're making just this beautiful drink and they hand it to you and you're like, oh, this is amazing. What a nice little surprise. And so how do we can that? How do we actually literally put all of that in a can? And so it was even the start of what the can looks like, to the textures on the can, to the fact that we have a gold lid and you go, "Oh, I'm fancy. Oh, this feels nice. This is different. This isn't a Coke. This is a hippie water." And so that's just the start. And when you crack that can open, I wanted it to be so fragrant. I wanted you to immediately smell it before it even hits your lips. The point is really getting your nose involved before your taste even gets there. And so it's adding that feature to it on top of, I want the flavors to feel recognizable while remaining unique. And that's a weird thing, a weird kind of stance to have. And that's why I think feeding the masses is really helpful here and in understanding what they consider comfortable versus polarizing and all that stuff. So, you take garden party, peach and lemon. You're like, sure, any day, all day. Wait, there's ginger in here? Well, what is that like? Well, how does that round it out? And it's keeping that sense of curiosity throughout the experience as well. So I went on a tangent of overall just developing the item, but instead of it being considered challenges, to me it was just hitting every checkbox I possibly could. A beverage is not just what you taste, it's every other sense around that too. So that is all that was put in mind when creating Hippie Water. And on top of that, let's add cannabis. What does that taste like? How does that affect the product? And instead of considering it a challenge, it was, how can I make this better? Oh, how can we make her taste right? Because cannabis, as some people know, it's a plant and it kind of tastes like a plant. It's going to have those earthy, bitter notes. So knowing
I
that,
didn't want bong water.
yeah, you don't want bong water. Exactly, exactly. So it's was finding a perfect balance while making that cocktail, while making that experience, all bundled into.
Lars, I think the other thing just to add to that, as far as like making the product itself, I think obviously Taylor is very passionate about it. And then it's everything that comes afterwards. But I think that every person or every business in this space deals with this, which is just the hurdles of the cannabis business in general, whether you're going for marijuana, whether you're going for hemp, um, licensing, making sure that all your paperwork is correct. Taylor also is so great at that. When she first started in the industry, she studied food law. So we are so grateful that she knows all of the paperwork and all the things that we need. And as much as that's an obstacle, it's also something that at least we didn't have to do a lot of research on. It was like checking boxes, like she was saying with the other things. And that is like a huge relief. So for the rest of the team that, isn't involved in the actual formulation process, those are the things that we would be stressing about if Taylor didn't know. And she just handled that like a champ and with experience that, she's had for years. And so from the business side, that was just a huge relief.
I'm
So
glad you
thankful
brought
for
that
that as
up.
well.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up because I don't consider that the sexy side to talk about. And it's just so second nature to me to do all those things. But you're right. We had the luxury because I have fed so many people in so many different industries that part, the paperwork and the documentation was the easy part. Ensuring this was safe was so straightforward because I know how to do that. And so I guess that's a nice add. That was not a headache for us. That might have been for others. Or even I hear other people in our industry say, we started our formula and it took us a year before we came out with something. We launched our very first batch immediately. It was because we know how to do that. That's second nature. So that was a plus for us overall, of not having to go through a ton of stress. That's not the hard part. The hard part is telling people, hey, you know this vice that everyone said was really bad for you? What if it's not?
Yes. As we were talking offline, Taylor, the product formulation part is incredibly difficult, and to get rid of the weed taste, if that's not what you're going for, is also highly difficult, as I've been experimenting with my own hydration mix. So a theme has come up a few times throughout the conversation is class and chill with the product. How are you manifesting that in the product as well as the branding and everything like that?
Well, Sasha and I probably have different answers on how we do that. So, Sasha, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, Taylor, I want you to go first, not because I don't have an answer, but I think it will fit better in the opposite direction. So you go first.
Sure, sure. So, bringing class and chill here is constantly recognizing that we will need to innovate. I think that in order to really provide the class and chill is we have the chill component. We do. That's really where the THC comes in. That's really where this canned item comes in, because currently we are serving in cans and the future will hold different items and concepts, and I'm really excited for that. But at the time being, my version is making people excited and curious. And how do we recognize that our product is an unwind product in terms of where people are most likely to consume our product? We have surveyed and found it's the afternoon after work, at that rough 5 to 9 p.m. time frame. Kids are in bed, I'm done working for the day, after I take a shower, binging on some TV. That's our time slot. And so we maintain that to be the chill space, and really cater to that. But in terms of really amplifying the fancy aspects is coming up with new products. And so you're getting a small peek behind the curtain, but hopefully the goal is to launch another beverage this summer. Fingers crossed, not promising anything, but that's how we're keeping it classy, is constantly providing new and exciting options and innovations.
Yeah,
Feel
and
free to break any news on the podcast here. So.
You're the first.
I think a huge part of this too, that's why I wanted Taylor to go first, because that is the, like she said, the behind the curtain aspect of this, right? I think for me, that answer is, I mean, there's definitely some similarities, but I think it's for me about, feeling, like I said, comfortable holding that can, but then being able to pour it in a fancy glass. It has incredible color. Like every flavor has an amazing, like, different feel. And I love that. Yes, we only have 3 flavors and we want to expand to more, but it's such a classy product based on that combination. The smell, what it looks like, and how it can be implemented in different ways. And whether that is mixing it into your own mocktail, whether that is, feeling like you're having that classy drink in a glass. You don't have to have it in a can. It can feel very sexy, or it can feel very comfortable on the couch. And I like that it has that class and chill to it. It's really what makes sense to you in the moment, what you feel like, what mood you're in, and I love that. And the more that we evolve and the more SKUs that we bring out, I think it will just amplify it, even more. But we want to make sure that you feel luxurious having it, whether that is calm on the couch or whether that is, being social with your friends, or however you feel fit. And that is really the mood to me. And because I like to entertain, I want to be able to pour that out and it not just be like this clear drink that you're not sure of what it is. I want it to feel like it is something special that you're drinking. And because we are such a clean product, because we don't have any added sugars, because our juices are, come from Italy, and we are under 35 calories, it really embodies who we are, but you also don't feel guilty having it. And I love that, where, it's that's also where the classy comes in, where that what you're drinking is on par with your desire to have a healthier life. And I think that's pretty classy. You're serving yourself there. So that's my version of it.
You said that
Absolutely.
so beautifully, and I totally forgot to mention color in my whole chat. I just go, oh my gosh, I'm talking too long. But our colors are something that are truly beautiful. The intention behind Island Getaway, water,
Hmm.
lime, really is meant to be close to a margarita. And so you pour it out, and that's a pink party. She is your Barbie girl. She is beautiful with that little touch of spice, a really good time. Now, if you're more of a sangria person, if you're hoping for something nice and warm and cozy, that's definitely where our winter groove is going to fit in. With the pomegranate and orange, you pour it out, it mimics a sangria and has those beautiful rich notes. And then Sasha's favorite and the demand that she had for me was that we had to come up with a peach drink. And that's where Garden Party was inspired. And when you pour Garden Party out, it's intended to look like a golden champagne of something that you'd really want to cheers with others.
So
I have this.
colors are natural. Sorry, Lars, those come
They're
from
good.
the fruit juice. That
Right.
doesn't come from dyes. And I think that was an important thing for us too.
So I have this really bad habit of just trying products and not looking at the flavors whatsoever, or just looking at like the name like at first. So I forget the actual name, but the one that has the little bit of spice to it.
Island Getaway.
Island Getaway, yes, that was the first one I tried, and so I just cracked it open, took a sip, and I'm not like a it's not overly spicy, but it does have a little bit of spice to it, and I was not expecting that, and so it was a little bit surprising. That's happened to me a few times with some different brands as well. It's like they'll add chilies or whatever to the product, and I'll be like, oh, I was not expecting that. I
Surprise
should
feedback.
I should probably read labels a little bit more before I try products.
Maybe.
But so I always like to end these conversations with what other brands in the space do you guys admire, and are you guys drinking besides your own products?
Yeah.
I
I mean,
can go first
yeah,
on this one.
go for it. Go for it.
So if I could stake a claim on who I believe is the gold standard, is actually not in this space. It's
Mm-hmm.
Liquid. I
It's what?
love Liquid Death.
Oh, liquid.
I love that they have embodied a true brand. They're beyond that product and actually have such clear messaging on who they want to be. They have fun with themselves. They really embrace their sense of death culture and how they've played with that. And I want this to always feel fun and always have that hippie feel that yeah, we are for the luxury of things, but let's be real. Sometimes I'm in sweatpants, I haven't brushed my hair in 3 days, and I just need something to chill. And I want to feed into that too. And so I love how Liquid Death has really just gotten to go full on with who they want to be. And because of that, I think that's truly what's made them stand out is they are beyond their product.
And I also love liquid death. And annoyingly, they can obviously market anywhere, which is something that I'm jealous of. For me in the cannabis space, I have two favorites for two different reasons. Palmos is one of my favorites because you can really mix like a cocktail. I think that they have really, captured that beautiful bottle. It can look great on your bar cart. And it's something that is also familiar and special. And there's a lot of passion in their product. And I really love David, one of their co founders and CEOs. So overall, I really like the way that they've, put their product together, and I feel very similar to them as far as that high standard in their product. I also feel this way about dope water. And I love it. They have their niche, they are sparkling water. They are your replacement to LaCroix. And I love the way that they taste. And I think they've done a really great job with their marketing. Obviously, their name is amazing, and it can also really resonate with lots of generations. And Sebastian, the CEO of that company, is also a great guy. He's also South African. And I think that is kind of what I was talking about when I'm talking about like the standard in the industry, and who I want our, Hippie Water to be next to when it comes to seeing it in Total Wine or that sort of thing. And I think they've both done a really great job with that. And so I'm big fans of both of those companies, like I said, for both, for two different reasons. And actually, Alex and I tried their product together when we mixed a mocktail. And we were like, this feels sexy. This feels great. This feels like we're getting that craft cocktail that, we were used to making with the shaker, sort of a thing. And so we resonate with them that way. And I really appreciate that company. So those are my two gold standards in the industry for that reason. And I also obviously like the people behind it. So that's helpful.
So I also like all three of those brands. For Dope, what I liked about them was the 16-ounce can for the same dosage, because I drink a lot of liquid. I always have some sort of beverage around me. And so having a very large beverage without having to like increase my dosage was quite lovely. And I know it also tastes good as well. And then with Pamos, they have I just saw it for the first time on Reddit the other day. They have like a reserve bottle. So it's like black.
So
That's like
cool.
the sexiest bottle I've seen in a very long time. And
It's
so I also have not tried it yet.
yeah,
Ugh.
Yeah. So
I
anyway,
really
thank you to both of you for joining the show, and I look forward to sharing this with everyone, and trying some more hippie water. And thank you for helping me get through Christmas.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And until next time, guys, cheers.
thank you. Cheers.